A Place Called Home by Laurie Wick. Chapter 54. Using the back of her hand, Mrs. Hall brushed a fallen strand of hair from her face. Her eyes fell on a small slip of paper sticking out of a stack she was reading through. 284539. She contemplated the odd set of numbers for a time before setting the paper aside. Sunday was no time to be going through the study at the Bennet residence, but she was drawing close to the end, and was anxious to be done. Her fingers went to her temples, and she rubbed gently. 284539. What an odd combination of numbers. Combination! The safe! Mrs. Hall reached quickly for the paper. She had nearly forgotten the safe. Mrs. Hall went to a small wood cabinet that sat inconspicuously behind the desk below the two windows. The door opened easily to reveal the black safe within. Mrs. Hall looked again at the numbers in her hand and then knelt on the floor. The first two tries with the dial were unsuccessful, but on the third attempt she heard a click. Reaching carefully for the handle, she turned it and pulled. Her heart was pounding as she swung the door open. She rose quickly and moved the desk lamp close. A musty smell hit her nose when she resumed her place on the floor. For a moment she touched nothing, but she held the lamp high and peered within the small cavern of the safe. A large, yellowish bundle of papers caught her eye, and she reached for it. Mrs. Hall recognized Joshua Bennet's own handwriting on the first page. It took the weary housekeeper some minutes to realize she was reading a will. Joshua Bennet's last will and testament written in his own hand. With sudden clarity, Mrs. Hall was transported back through time. She'll receive the house and stables along with the rest of my holdings. In the event of her death, the inheritance will go to my partner, Vince Jeffers. Carl Maxwell had read those words in a quiet, almost apologetic voice. What a blind fool she had been! To be sure of her theory, she quickly scanned the pages in her hand. There was not a word about Vince Jeffers. Nearly everything was left unconditionally to Christine. Mrs. Hall struggled up from her cramped position on the floor. Donning her coat and hat, she quickly grabbed up the incriminating papers and rushed for the front door. I think we should eat at 7 o'clock. How is that for your families? Sounds fine, Julia answered. No problem that I can think of, Suzanne said, then added, pending, as always, Mark's work. We'll just bring Grandma Em with us. Julia, are you going to do the pies? Christine asked. I'd planned on it. I put up jars and jars of peaches, and that's her favorite. Okay, Sue's doing a chocolate cake, and I'm covering supper. So I think we're all set. Christine would have said more, but the moment Grandma Em entered the kitchen, the three women stopped talking. When the silence lengthened, through Grandma Em washing a spot on her dress, she became suspicious. Why do I get the distinct feeling I was being discussed? Grandma Em asked while approaching the table. The women knew she had to be told, but they hated to spoil her Sunday. In their hesitation, she figured it out for herself. Oh, you girls, you're planning something for Friday, aren't you? I told you last year there would be no more parties, but you didn't listen. You need to be spanked, and I'm going to go get your husbands. Christine looked a little bit thunderstruck, but Julia and Suzanne had heard all this before. Within minutes, Mac, Luke, and Mark entered the kitchen. Julia stood and gave Mac her chair. As she expected, she was pulled down into his lap as soon as he was settled. Mark stood beside Suzanne, his hands resting on her shoulders. Luke took the chair next to Christine after moving it close beside hers. Where are the children? Sue asked. Emily is out for the count on the sofa, and the boys went out to play with Silas, her husband answered. And Gram? She headed upstairs after telling us you three were in here to plot against her. You must have been discussing Friday, Luke guessed, since he and Christine had already talked it over. Is it true she says no more parties every year? Christine wanted to know. Just about, but she loves them and always has more fun than anyone else. By March, when the cold weather feels like it's never going to end, everyone is in need of a party. The 6 adults talked around the table for a while. When Christine heard one of the boys run by outside and Silas call to him, she commented absently and to no one in particular, I wish Silas were in here with his wife. It was a subject that had crossed everyone's mind at one time or another. Has Si said anything to you, Christine? About wanting a wife, I mean? No, not directly, or even indirectly for that matter. It's just that at times he looks a bit lost and lonely. I didn't mean to make you cry, Julia. Has Si said anything to you, Christine? About wanting a wife, I mean? No, not directly, or even indirectly for that matter. It's just that at times he looks a bit lost and lonely. I didn't mean to make you cry, Julia. Christine felt bad. Julia shook her head in mute apology over the display of tears, and Max said, It's not your fault, Christine. Some people were born with an overabundance of tears. Julia has enough for 6 people. Everyone laughed at this, and the spell was broken. They continued to talk and make plans until Elizabeth began to complain about an empty stomach from the cradle in the parlor. Soon everyone broke up to return to their own homes, the prospect of a party on Friday buoying everyone's mood. I need to see Mr. Jeffers. The sheriff and Spooner spoke as soon as the housekeeper allowed him into the entryway. I'm terribly sorry, but he's not home. Perhaps you'd like to leave a message. When will he be back? It's urgent. The housekeeper hesitated. I repeat, it's urgent that I need to speak with him. He's not here, and I don't know where he is. When I arrived this morning, there was only a note saying he would be away and to keep the house in order. The servant looked frightened. Let me see the note. The sheriff's voice was abrupt in his agitated state over Vince Jeffers getting away. The housekeeper scurried to comply with the order. Upon reading it and taking a quick look around, the sheriff's hopes plummeted. From all appearances, Vince Jeffers had disappeared without a trace.